Welcome to the Weekend Booktopian. I'm Mark Harding, Content and Brand Manager for Booktopia, and this is a podcast about the books we're reading. Joining me today are Category Manager for Lifestyle Books, Shanu Prasad. Hello, Shanu.
Hello.
Category Manager for Kids and YA, Sarah McDuling. Hello, Sarah.
Hi.
And we're also joined by Senior Content Producer and Editor of the Booktopian blog, Olivia Fricot. Hi, Liv.
Hi.
First up today, I'm going to have a quick chat with Michael Campbell, Executive Director of Western Sydney-based literacy charity WestWords, and then we're going to delve into the books everyone is reading, and be sure to stick around until the end of the show when my guests will go head-to-head in a book quiz battle for supremacy known as Book Fight. But first up, my chat with Michael Campbell. So I'm joined today on the Weekend Booktopian by Michael Campbell, the Executive Director of WestWords. Michael, welcome to the show.
Lovely to be here.
Can you please tell us a little bit about the work that WestWords is doing?
Well, WestWords is Western Sydney's literature development organisation, and we're an arts-based organisation working right across Greater Western Sydney with centres in Campbelltown, Parramatta and Blacktown. And it's wonderful to work in Western Sydney. Western Sydney is home to just under 1 in 10 Australians. Over half the world's populations are represented here, and it is rich and it's diverse and it's full of stories. And we work very closely with writers and artists of all ages to celebrate the people, the places and the cultures that are the heart of this region. And we do that through a diverse range of programs, which include residency, fellowships, mentorships, workshops. We have publications, and we have got an events program as well. That's WestWords, and we work with kids, young adults, all the way through, right through to established writers who we employ to deliver our programs.
That's fantastic. And we've been working with WestWords on your upcoming fundraiser called Booktober. Could you tell us a little bit about what Booktober is all about?
Well, yes, it's about two things, really. The very first thing, it's about getting people reading, particularly Australian books, because in the books, they hold the stories of us, of our contemporary experience, our contemporary understandings, and our contemporary imagination. And it's also, it gives us, especially in these times, understanding and empathy into worlds and experiences beyond our own. So it's to get people reading, but it's not only that. Through the work that we do, we work with a lot of kids, a lot of young adults who unfortunately don't have access to their own books. They don't have that opportunity. And so what we do is that through Booktober, we help to raise money in order to get books, to continue our work, to get books into the hands of those kids. So they can have the same opportunities as we all do.
That's fantastic. And where can people go to sign up to take part in Booktober? And what does taking part in Booktober look like?
You go to booktober.org.au, and how you participate is in a number of different ways. You can sign up as a bookworm, and what that means is that you sign up and say that you're going to read so many books during the course of Booktober. You can also, then you can rally people to sponsor you to read. How good is that? If you're not so much a reader yourselves, but really understand and believe in what we're trying to do, you can jump into booktober.org.au, and you can find somebody who you would like to sponsor, or you can do it that way, or you can also directly donate to help. So that's how you get to participate.
And what do you hope that the people who participate will get out of Booktober, other than the good feeling of having contributed funds to this very worthy cause?
Well, one of the things is that the benefits of reading are just fantastic. I just talked about sort of the worlds that it opens up for you when you do so, but it's through for kids. It's through increased literacy. It's also through being able to see themselves and recognize themselves in the stories that they're reading. It also means it opens up into their potential. Through reading, they'll be able to sort of see what they can be and where they can go. And reading and literacy are life skills. They're skills that are fundamental to realizing your own potential. That's what we hope to do. For those people who are doing the reading, well, there is Dry July, which kind of looks at the health of your body. But Booktober is about the health and well-being of your mind and your spirit.
Absolutely. That's such a wonderful, wonderful way of looking at it. And what about you yourself, Michael? How many books are you planning to read for Booktober?
Well, in my fantasy world, there's a very, very large pile of books next to my bed, which I'd think, I'd be able to get through all of those. But to be honest, there's around about 22 there. So I'm also, I don't think I'll get through 22. But what I hope to do is I would like to read at bare minimum one a week for me. I want to be able to sit. I've got an 8-year-old daughter, and every night I sit there with her reading, and I hope to get through one large chapter book every 3 days throughout the course of Booktober. And then, of course, my older one, who's now 14, she's not going to be very receptive to me reading to her. So I'm going to get her to become a bookworm, and I'm going to get her friends to sponsor her. And then I'll hopefully convince my wife to sponsor me as well, become a bookworm herself.
Well, so it sounds like the benefits are great for mental health and also bringing families together.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, one of the great things is that for us, but also it's in the research, that from our very earliest age with our children, we sat down with large picture books, hardcover picture books, and we read to them every single night. And they learnt through reading. They became engaged in the worlds beyond themselves through that process. It brought my children and I closer together in a kind of nightly ritual that when the day was finishing, we would come together through the stories in books.
That's lovely. And for people who might want to take part but don't know what books they should read or what a good list of books is there somewhere where they can go to find that?
Absolutely. On the Booktober website, what we've done is put suggested reading lists together, and we put lists together very particularly because in a month where you're dedicated to reading, you might feel like going and doing a bit more exploring beyond what you normally might gravitate to if you're on the Booktopia website, and you kind of go to the places that you know. On the Booktober website, we've got lists for children. We've got edgy young adult lists. We've got contemporary Aboriginal literature. We've got books from Western Sydney, specifically from this region, for you to explore.
That's wonderful. So there's lots and lots of information there, and lots of great books that you'll be connecting people to. Can you tell us a little bit about what the funds raised will be able to do?
Well, what it will be able to do, it will be able to put books directly in the hands of some of these young children and young people that we've come across through our extensive work in the region, and we'll be able to actually give them their own books. But it's not just that. It's not just that. We will do programs in and around that to help them with their writing, to help them be able to find their voice, their own personal voice, but and then through the reading be able to expand into what they might be able to do. So we won't be doing just a single kind of, well, here you go, off you go. We'll be doing a sort of a 360 look at how we can help develop these young people.
Amazing. And, you know, as booksellers at Booktopia, you know, we know all too well that literacy really does change lives, and the work that you guys are doing is so valuable. And so we would urge everybody listening to head over to the booktopia.org.au website, sign up as a bookworm, or donate and support this really worthy cause. Michael, thank you so much for your time. I don't want to take up too much of it. I'm aware that you have a meeting to go to in a couple of minutes, but I just wanted to thank you very much for your time and wish you all the best for Booktober.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you for to Booktopia, because if you go into Booktopia, I think you sell a book almost once every 6 seconds through the site. That's fantastic. That is fantastic.
Yeah, we do what we can to get as many books to as many Australians as possible.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful what you do, and thank you for partnering with us on this.
Not a problem. Thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you.
All right, now it's on to the books that we are reading. Olivia, why don't you regale us with a tale of the book that you're reading at the moment?
Well, I've read a lot of good books lately, which is good because for a while I was having a lot of trouble just finishing something. I read Honeybee by Craig Silvey, really enjoyed that. I read Piranesi by Susanna Clarke, also really enjoyed that. Loved The Lying Life of Adults by Elena Ferrante, that was great. But at the moment, I'm reading Ali Smith's Summer, which is the last book in her seasonal quartet. It's basically like a beautifully lyrical reflection on the state of the world, told through this lens of like climate change and impending ecological catastrophe, told through the eyes of mostly a young two siblings, Satcher and Robert, who are both kind of on differing ends of the spectrum when it comes to, you know, believing in climate change. And it's just about the journey that they go on in their relation to the natural world. If you've read any of the other novels in the seasonal quartet, it's very much from the same playbook. Not that it's formulaic, but if you enjoyed those, you'll really enjoy this one. Summer is my least favorite season, but I'm really enjoying Summer by Ali Smith. And if she can write every summer from here on in, I will be happy. So I'm reading that, and I'm also planning to dive into Ghosts by Dolly Alderson. Dolly Alderson. It's her debut novel about a 32-year-old woman who's a successful food writer, but her personal life is falling apart, and she tries dating apps, becomes a victim of ghosting. We've all been there. At least I have. I don't want to turn this into my...
I'm with you.
But she's also dealing with like family issues, like her dad's got dementia, and she's thinking about like the biological clock. It's just kind of one of those painfully relatable millennial novels. It's been blurbed by Elizabeth Day and Marion Keyes. I love Marion Keyes. And I follow Dolly online. She's really cool. So yeah, at the moment, and also planning to read.
Can you describe that book in relation to normal people?
No, I will not. I refuse. If I see another...
anything like Fleabag?
Rooney,
You just said millennial, and so I had to.
Oh, did you know? It's Fleabag meets Sally Rooney. There you go.
Wow, I've not heard that before. That sounds amazing.
It's not. I'm being facetious.
I know. I'm also being facetious. It's just a facetious parade at the moment.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Liv. Sarah, why don't we go to you? What are you up to reading-wise?
Oh, I don't read anymore. I've come to this podcast about the Booktopia, and I have not read anything. Yeah, honestly, do you want to talk about Julie and the Phantoms? I can do that. I've had a bit of a slump. I blame Hollowpox because that was a really fun read, and since then I just haven't really wanted to read anything. I am actually, it's not true, I am halfway through a fantastic book which I did speak about last time I did this podcast, but I'll just touch on it again, which is A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. I'm really taking my time with this one because it's a cool world. I'm enjoying the world building. Shanu, I believe you've read it.
I have read it, and I read it really fast, not realizing it was the start of a series.
Oh, so I'm going to really meander.
It's good to take your time with it because when you get to the end of it, you just I need the next one.
Maybe I'll go even more slowly because I really like this world.
Yeah. It's really scary. It scared me a little bit. Not scared me scary, but it's like you just don't see that many books that are actually for young adults where it feels like almost like Saw the movie kind of style of but in a school. Anything can happen.
It's so true. I kind of understand now
they just die.
Why the publishers said it was adult fantasy. And I was like, how dare you? It's a school about a young teenager girl in a magic school. That's YA. You can't tell me that that's not YA. But now that I'm reading it, I kind of get why they were positioning it in adult fantasy because it's genuinely quite scary. There's no point at the books that I've read so far where the characters aren't in imminent danger of death. And it's not even just that they could die at any moment. It's that's
the casualness, right?
Something they accept when they go to this school. It's not a small percentage of the kids are going to make it out of this school alive, and they know that when they go in. And it makes for a really interesting storytelling ground because you're it's intense. It's really intense. And there's also a lot of humor. Yeah. And I really like the main character is, her gift is kind of inherently sort of dark and evil. But she has made a conscious decision to not be dark and evil, but also at any moment she could be dark and evil. It's really, I'm really liking it. So that's A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik, author of Uprooted, also a fantastic book, and Spinning Silver, also amazing. And then now we have to talk about my TBR because I got nothing else. This weekend, after saving it, I don't know, I have this weird delayed gratification thing sometimes with books that I know that I'm going to love, and I just can't bear to start them because then I'll finish them and it'll be over. But I'm finally going to settle down with Garth Nix's Left-Handed Booksellers of London. I'm super excited. Oh my God, good. Then we can both talk about it next week.
Yes.
I really can't wait for this. I'm sure I've spoken before on the podcast about how much I love Garth Nix. This is a whole new thing. It's not connected to the Old Kingdom. It's not connected to Angel Mange, which was his book of last year that I loved. This is a whole new thing about left-handed booksellers of London. And honestly, for details, you'll have to wait until next month after I've read it. Also, I believe we'll be podcasting with Garth Nix sometime in between now and then. So there's that too. Yes. But yeah, I'm very excited for that. And I'm also, I've also recently got a copy of the new Jennifer Niven book, Breathless. That is, this will actually, I believe, be my first Jennifer Niven book. She wrote All the Bright Places, which I was too scared to read because I heard that it was sad. And I didn't want to read it. And there's since been a Netflix movie of that, and I hear that that's sad too. So I haven't watched it. So sometimes I'm not opposed to a sad ending, but sometimes I just don't. It's not what I go to YA for normally. So this book though sounds like it's going to be, hopefully. I haven't heard that it's sad, and the blurb does not lead me to think that it's going to be sad. It sort of seems
very personal, right?
Yeah, I think it's about a girl who's, trying out some important life things for the first time, which is a teenage rite of passage, and it just seems as though it's.
Isn't it based on her own experience?
Oh, I didn't know that. I did not know that. That makes it even more.
I thought that it was. Yeah.
No, I think it's just about it. So, okay, the premise of the book is that there's a girl is sort of, as so many YA heroines throughout the history of young adult literature have done, been forced to go somewhere on holiday that she didn't want to go to, which is like a remote place, and it spoils all her plans that she had where she was going to, hang out with her friends and maybe like hook up with a cute boy. And instead she's sent out to this remote place. But then she meets a boy there, and then they fall in love, and, that's the story. As far as I'm aware, I haven't started reading it yet, but it's like a love story where both people are like very much aware that it's only going to be for the summer because they both live far away with their families and they are children, so they can't decide to relocate. And yeah, I think it's about a girl's first time, really, which I don't know. I know how popular this author is, and if I really like Breathless, you might see me then deciding to finally read All the Bright Places. Who knows? Stay tuned. That's about all I've got to say about the books I haven't read.
Oh, thank you for that, Sarah. What about you, Shanu? What have you been reading or not reading?
No. I've been reading. This past weekend, I read a lot of YA. I do read other books as well. People keep seeming surprised that I do read, more serious books, but I just don't, they're just not my, go-to. But I was quite amazed because when the Man Booker long list came out, I was like, oh my goodness, I've actually already read, like just through my own reading, like 3 books that were on the long list. And then the shortlist came out and I went, well, there we go. That's typical. None of the books that I'd read were obviously, literary enough to make the shortlist. So I have, though, had at my house for like 4 months or something, a copy of Burnt Sugar by Avni Doshi. And I had been meaning to read it for ages and ages and ages. And then when the Booker shortlist came out and I knew that Jo wants to read all the books and she hadn't read that one yet. And so I knew I was seeing her this week. So I knew I had to read the book so I could give it to her to read. And so I read it. And it was quite sad and quite I don't know if it ended on a place of acceptance or a note of resignation, but I didn't feel great at the end of it. I wasn't like, oh, that was wonderful. I was like, oh wow, like it was powerful, but it wasn't like happy. So then I thought, I finished that at like, I don't know, 2:00 or something. I was like, okay, I'll read another book instead of like picking up, say, one of the millions of YA books that I'm really excited to read, or the David McAllister autobiography Saul, which I'm definitely going to read. I didn't pick up any of those things. What I thought instead was, I know what I'll read. I'll read the new Richard Flanagan. That'll keep me up.
Just something light.
Just something light. I've never read Richard Flanagan before, but I do understand that his books generally aren't just, quick throwaway Saturday afternoon reads. Anyway, so I opened it up and I read the first page and I went, I don't understand this. I read it again. I was like, I don't think this is actually a sentence that is grammatically correct, like any of them on the first page. So then
I love this so much.
Then I thought, you know what? I was sitting outside in the garden by myself. No one else was home. The neighbours weren't outside. So I was like, you know what? I think I'm just going to try reading this out loud just to see if that helps. So I started reading it out loud. And then I read the next 4 chapters out loud. And it was amazing.
This is so cool.
I did not realise how different something, I don't really listen to audiobooks, and I did not realise how differently something can come across just from the act of reading out loud versus scanning a page.
And the only way I can edit my uni essays, I have to read them out loud. Like, does this make sense? Does this flow?
There you go.
And number 1 tip.
100%. And so his writing out loud, particularly the beginning, once you kind of get past that, firstly, my voice was quite sore, and secondly, it turned more into a bit it's not conventional, but more of a narrative that was about the story rather than so much the language that was being used. And I think I'd gotten used to it by then, but the language and how he uses it is so beautiful, and it is so it's just amazing. It is another story of real tragedy, and it's tragedy at a very personal level and tragedy at a kind of world level. For me, when I finished reading it, I feel like it works on more levels than I probably even understand. But the sense that I got from it was a little bit like the sense I got from when I finished reading Last Migration, even though in terms of story, plot, writing, all of it, completely different. So that was a Saturday.
Is it a similar reading experience to Narrow Road to the Deep North, the only Richard Flanagan book I've ever read?
Well, I don't know because I've never read any other Richard Flanagan. So you should probably talk to Ben about that. And I'm sure, Ben would probably write and talk very much more eloquently about the book than
it's a very different topic, I know. But I wonder if it's the same kind of reading experience, which is
I feel like no, it's not long. Like I read that, like the book's not very long at all. Like it's quite small. It's quite actually small. It's just it's in hardcover, the most beautiful looking book as well. If you're just a fan of beautiful books, you just have to get this book. It is like the cover is amazing. But when you take the dust jacket off, the cover underneath is even more amazing. It is so stunning.
It does look really beautiful.
Which is not what I normally go on about when I'm talking about a fiction book, but it is. But the other thing I wanted to, since you guys, since Sarah had less things she's read, I've read other, I stopped reading that I've read. I read a book which, talking about beautiful covers, is also got the most beautiful cover. Even like the actual proof copy was so sparkly that I could barely take a photo of it when I was reading it to show that I was reading it the other week. And then when I've seen the finished copy, it's even better. It's also a hardback, and anyone that gets this as a present this year is going to be so happy. The book is called The Grandest Bookshop in the World by Amelia Mellor, and it's a fictional story for middle grade, slightly older middle grade, maybe I would say. Like it's quite a long book for, so you'd be like 10 and up kind of age, I would say, and it's completely fictional, it's completely magical, but it is actually set in a real place, which was a real place in Melbourne, the E.W. Cole bookstore, which I don't know, I remember because it's my generation, but people under my age might not remember so much. But there was he was really famous even when I was growing up, for this book called the Cole's Funny Picture Book, and this guy was just this incredible man who created the most amazing. You can't even really call it a bookstore because he sold other things and books in there as well. It started off as a bookstore, and it's just a magical place. He had like this amazing tea room. He had like a live band playing. He had like a stationery department, a haberdashery department. So it was almost like a precursor to your kind of like really big kind of like experiential department store kind of shopping experience, and it was just incredible. Anyway, so the story is about two of his children, Pearl and Valley. Pearl is the first protagonist that we meet, and then Valley is her slightly older brother, and basically they love living there. It's amazing. They have had some tragedy in their life. One of their siblings had passed away a few years earlier of I think in real life it's scarlet fever. I can't remember in the book if they actually say what it is. And there's like there's a menagerie in the place as well with like talking parrots, and there's this world of wonders. Like the place is just incredible. And they find out that their father, who they call Pa, has actually risked the fate of the arcade and himself in a deal with a mysterious stranger called the Obscuro. I'm going to say it wrong. Obscuro Smith, who basically has told their dad that he can make anything come true that people want for a price. So he's basically promised Pa that he'll bring the dead daughter back to life, and in exchange for his own life, basically, and the bookstore. Now, what he actually brings to life is basically a wax-like version of the daughter. So she's not It's not her, obviously. You can't bring someone dead back to life, even in a magical world. It's not going to happen. And so Pearl is like really, like, she's really adventurous. She's really kind of like sort of a little bit foolhardy. And she just makes this deal with the Obscura Smith that if they can win the game against him, that there's like 7 challenges and they have to do it by the stroke of midnight, that the arcade and their father will be restored, the deal is done, and the Obscura Smith will go away. And so basically it's pretty high stakes. It's for a kid's book. It's pretty high stakes. I was feeling the pressure while I was reading it. And so, and it's really fantastic. And Amelia has, it's her debut novel, but for kids. And she's written just the most magical book, but set in like reality where, like I knew that the Coles Book Arcade was a real place. And that's why I was interested in the book, but it's so magical. And then at the end you're thinking, surely none of those things could have actually been real. Like, surely there really wasn't this incredible tea house with, and this menagerie of animals and stuff. But then at the end, she's put a little chapter in about kind of, the reality of what was there. And it is amazing, which was then incredible because I found an article in the paper about E.W. Cole and a book that's coming out, which is actually already out at the exact same time. So once you've read the grandest bookshop in the world, if you want to know more about E.W. Cole, you can read a book called Under the Rainbow, The Life and Times of E.W. Cole by Richard Bronowski. And it is another hardcover, also beautiful book. It's just the theme of the week, I think. And it's got heaps and heaps of photos of Cole's book arcade, of the amazing, of his family, of the places that he visited. It's got fantastic research. Like, he's done so much research into basically going through his entire life, and it really sets you in of how different this man was in the times that he lives in. So I thought that was amazing that they've both come out at the same time, and they're such a good read together. And if you love fiction and you're not so much of a non-fiction person, you'll still really love this, because he basically tells like stories all the way through about this incredible man's life. And I think it's great that we find out more about him, because he really was super interesting.
I've never even heard of that bookstore.
Oh, no, it was like, it completely, after he died, no one could run it like he could. He was really led by him. And so it got sold off and disintegrated, and, it's gone now. But while it was around for like 40 years or something like that, it was like the place to go. I mean, it's a great story that he tells about, like, he opened the bookstore on Melbourne Cup Day and said, don't go to the races, come and read a book instead. He basically had these tokens, and you gave, like, the tokens were free, and if you gave a token, you could go and sit. You could just go into the bookstore and sit there and read. You didn't have to buy anything. He just did all these kind of, like, he was like a real retailing kind of genius, basically. You can learn about the family and like the magic in the first book, and then learn about like the real man in the second book.
What's the recurring rainbow on both covers all about?
Oh, because that was that's what, if you look at a photo of Cole's Book Arcade, the rainbow was that was his logo, basically.
Oh, wonderful.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing all that, Shanu. Thank you for actually, not only did you read books, you read one out. So that, I think
I did an extra weekend Booktopian this month. I think I'm doing okay.
That's fair enough. Right. That could be like a new content series, Shanu reading out loud in her garden.
I did have to stop reading also because some neighbours' kids started coming out and screaming like they were in serious pain, but I don't think they were. I think that's just what they call playing. I don't have kids, so I'm not super familiar with the difference in the sounds, but that's what.
It might have been children getting murdered. Might have just been children playing.
It might have been Flanagan's prose. Definitely not. This is wonderful.
That's right.
Yeah. I'm actually really curious to read that book as my second Richard Flanagan reading book.
Yes.
If I ever read again, which is in doubt.
All right, now before we move on into Book Fight, just let me firstly apologize. If I have some background noise coming through right now, I apologize for that. I have a guy mowing my lawn right now, because, some people were born to mow lawns and others were born to have them mowed for them.
I can't hear it. I think you're good.
No, I think you did. Okay, good. So before we jump into Book Fight, we're actually sponsored this week by a book, 10 Things About Writing. Build Your Story One Word at a Time by Joanne Harris is an indispensable guide to the craft of writing and the business of publishing from one of our best-selling and most versatile authors, who famously wrote the book Chocolat, or as it's known by my mum, Chocolate.
Or by me as the one with Juliette Binoche and Johnny Depp.
Yeah. So this is a wonderful book that takes the reader beyond the stage of writing and finishing a manuscript and editorial changes into the territory as well of rights, publicity, and marketing. Whether you have the urge to write crime fiction or a fantasy novel, literary short stories, or blockbuster thrillers, Joanne's book will speak to you. And you can order that right now on booktopia.com.au, and it is published through Booktopia Editions. So now it's inevitably reached that point in the podcast where we roll up our sleeves and duke it out for supremacy in Book Fight.
I didn't like this part.
You love this part. You all love this part. So you all have to choose a word that you're going to use to buzz in to claim a question. Liv, what's your word going to be?
Summer.
Shanu?
Rainbow.
And Sarah?
I don't know.
TV.
Where? TBR.
London.
London.
Good one. All right. Fingers on buzzers. And are we ready to fight?
Sure.
All right. Question 1. Author Sam McBratney passed away this week at the age of 77. What children's book was
London.
Sarah?
Guess How Much I Love You?
Yes. Very good.
I'll see. I've been dealing with the newest book because he's got a new book.
Will You
that's
Be My
now
Friend?
coming out. Yeah, possibly
Yeah.
this week. So, yeah.
So sad.
It's very sad. It's a beautiful book, though. Like, what a follow-up. Sorry,
Oh, yeah.
let's just pause
Yeah.
Book Fight for a moment so I can talk about Will You Be My Friend by Sam McBratney, who sadly passed away. It's like a gorgeous book, and if you've ever read Guess How Much I Love You to a child and you know how lovely it is, Will You Be My Friend is a worthy successor.
Agreed. I have read it.
Okay, unpause.
Okay, the next question. I'm sure none of you will get this because I feel like this is something that only was trending before, and I'm sure you're all too busy to notice. But hot off the press, the Arthur C. Clarke Award for 2020 has been awarded.
Oh shit.
Book 1. I don't believe that's your buzzer, Liv.
No, it's not. I wasn't going to answer. That was oh crap, I forgot to do a blog post.
I don't
about that.
know.
You all give up? No, nobody knows?
Oh no, sorry. What is the Arthur C. Clarke Award? Who's Arthur C. Clarke? That was a joke. That was a joke. I know who he is. I wasn't joking.
Book might have won, like a clue.
Did you say it was the first? It was the first.
I
You just
didn't say that. I didn't say that.
First something. That's
Can we do title sounds like, and you just say something that rhymes with the title?
Title rhymes with?
Okay, it is a debut. It is a debut novel, and it is it's an African story.
Oh, far out.
It's been described as the great African novel of the 21st century.
Max, all of them are described like
There's
that.
many. That's not enough information.
All right, I'm just going to say that nobody got this. It is a book called The Old Drift by Namwali Serpel.
I definitely did not get that.
We all failed. Minus 1 point for all of us.
I know prior to this that I was in a mood and I was going to take points off, but the thought of Shanu reading out loud Richard Flanagan in her garden and upsetting the neighbors' children, for some reason that's just brought me joy.
Excellent.
Okay, next question. Tommy Adeyemi was named as one of the most influential people in the world in Time Magazine's Top 100 Most Influential People in the World 2020 list this week. Name the first 2 installments of her Legacy of Orisha series. Sorry, who buzzed in then?
Liv.
Okay.
Children of Blood and Bone.
Yep.
Oh God, what's the second?
I know this.
Vengeance.
Rust and Vengeance.
Virtue and Vengeance.
Virtue of it. Yes, correct. Yeah. Well done, Liv.
Well done.
That's a 2-point question. So there you go. Okay, next question. The word grok means to understand something intuitively. Name the author who coined the word and a bonus point for the book in which he did it.
I'm going to get.
All I heard was grok.
I'm saying Rainbow, and I have no idea, but I'm just going to say Douglas Adams and Hitchhiker's Guide because that's all I can think of as someone that would make up stuff.
Okay.
No, but you're in the probably the right genre.
London.
Oh.
Yes, Sarah.
If I guess the person, do I get 1 point? And I won't know what the book is. Is it Terry Pratchett?
It's not Terry Pratchett.
Okay, I'm out.
I thought this was super famous.
Only in your circles, Mark. I think you need to pass these questions by general book knowledge people, not specific genre book knowledge people.
Wait. So you're in the ballpark with Douglas Adams, so it's probably science fiction.
Yeah.
What's the other person who's completely blanked again?
Who's funny that writes science fiction?
Is this a June thing?
It's not a June thing.
Okay.
But it's so I'll give you a clue.
I don't think June's meant to be funny.
He's American, middle of the 20th century author. Wrote wrote a book. I think this was published in the 60s that this book came from, which was kind of quite a big counterculture book. It has a bit of a cult following. He also wrote a book that got turned into a movie in the 90s. Sorry?
Is it Philip K. Dick?
No.
What?
Okay, what's...
Robert Heinlein, The Stranger in a Strange Land.
What are you?
Oh, I never have got it.
Guys. Okay, that is not.
This is payback for that time that I hosted Book Fight and it was a disaster.
I think so far this seems pretty disastrous to me. So
I'm enjoying this so much more than the normal Book Fight.
You can always tell when the questions are relatively normal, it means I've had time to prepare. Pulling on shit that I know, it's like I did this like 10 minutes before.
No, you don't understand. I went to a trivia thing once where there was just random people that had put their trivia questions together, and it was some real Matrix nerds that had put together the trivia night, like real huge fans. And so there was a video, and they showed a tiny clip, maybe 10 seconds, and they said, "Say what comes next." The thing with the Matrix, there was 3 movies, right? They all basically looked the same, and they were all basically the same, and so there was no way anyone was ever. And there was 10 questions that were like that. I was like,
I would have found that very amusing, just as I am finding this very amusing. This is my favorite book fight I've ever been in.
Okay,
let's continue. What will you ask us next?
The next one
where I got 14 points.
The next one's gonna blow your mind.
Okay. I can't wait.
The novel Pattern Recognition by William Gibson.
Oh my goodness!
No, you haven't read the question yet. The novel Pattern Recognition by William Gibson inspired a song of the same name by which pioneering American rock band known for their use of noise?
Hearing the whole question did not help.
No use of noise.
It's about music.
It wasn't like for a use of silence.
They're a famous band for being like very noisy and like buzzing and noise and just.
Okay, what should we make this a yes or no thing? Was the band from the 80s?
Yes, 80s and 90s. It's still around today, I think, actually.
What else can we ask here?
I can give you a clue. I'll tell you two of the band members.
Okay.
Kim Gordon.
Oh,
Yeah.
None of you are using your buzzers. Can I just point out?
I also knew that.
The answer and then yelled Summer.
Yeah, sorry. I should have just yelled the answer out because I had the answer, but I couldn't remember what my buzzer was.
Okay, so we've got the band. Will we ever get the song?
No, it's the song of the same title, pattern recognition.
Oh, okay.
Recognition, yeah.
Okay, very good. See.
Joe, no. We only knew.
I'm so excited for the next one. Go.
All right, this is a very hard one. What is the complete title of That's What I Reckon's upcoming book?
Oh, Summer.
Olivia.
Oh shit. A Rat Bag's Guide to Life. No. A Rat Bag's Guide to Life?
That's it, right?
You're missing the first part of it though.
Oh.
A Rat Bag's Guide for a Rat Bag Rules for Life is the subtitle.
Is it Uncooked or Uncook Yourself?
Very good.
That's it.
Wow. Okay.
I love That's What I Reckon.
Heading into the last question, I'll do a score check. Sarah is on 1, Shanu is on 0, and Olivia is on 4. But I'm going to ask the last question anyway, and this one it's not kind of like the other ones. You'll be pleased to know.
Okay.
I'll
be less pleased.
Which book opens with the line, "We slept in what had once been the gymnasium"?
Oh, Summer.
Olivia.
Sorry. Handmaid's Tale, Margaret Atwood.
Very good. 5 points. Olivia wins.
Yay, Olivia.
Again. So much more fun than the average book fight.
So I should do this every time then?
Yes, just ask really obscure questions and then we'll try and get to them by asking you yes or no questions in response.
I like it. Really obscure science fiction quiz from now on.
I just don't really mind what the answer is. It could be wrong, and I'd be like, okay, sure. I
just find science fiction a very intimidating genre because there's so much out there, and it's like, I'm sure it's all amazing. I just don't know where to start.
We would have got it if it was related to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Well, I asked a Hitchhiker's question last week unrelatedly. So yeah, I don't want to repeat myself. All right.
No, you wouldn't.
To all my guests for joining me today, and thank you to everybody who listened. Weekend Booktopian is produced by Nick Wasiliev. You can find links to the books we've discussed today in the episode description, or you can find them at booktopia.com.au. You can listen to all of our shows for free right now on SoundCloud and iTunes, including our recent interview with Jane Harper. Until next time, thanks for listening and never stop reading.
Thank you for listening to the Booktopia podcast channel. Don't forget, you can subscribe to us on SoundCloud and iTunes for free and get access to hundreds of author discussions, book analysis pieces, and more. Or, if your eyes need a workout, head to Booktopia TV on YouTube. Don't forget, for all books featured in this podcast and for access to a whole bunch of other fun content on our blog, head to Booktopia, Australia's local bookstore, at booktopia.com.au.